Halo Reach, Decrypto, and Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 2. This is Staying In.
Do you remember when we all used to play Halo Reach? Did you ever play that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was Halo Reach the one with the zombies?
Yeah, Infection.
Well, no, they all had that.
Did they?
Well, yeah, I mean, the zombies were in, like, the Flood. The Flood was named. They were from the first game.
No, I'm thinking specifically of the multiplayer mode, Infected.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I meant. The zombies,
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's also the one that had Griff Ball, which is apparently a meme thing. I don't know what that's about. But it's also the first time they brought Blood Gulch back from the original Halo, which, I think we can all agree, is the best map.
Why is it the best? Why is it the best map?
Why is it the best map? Because it's the map that, to me, is the most Halo. It encourages some of the most Halo-related things. So the way that you want to play it.
All right. Okay. Stop. If you're gonna be using Halo as an adjective, first you got to define exactly what you mean by being Halo. Like if you did something and then if I did something and you went, oh, that's so Halo, what am I doing?
Yeah, okay. Well, I see Halo as a first-person shooter that tries to play with physical chaos quite a lot. Physical chaos, vehicles, and working together as part of a small team, right? I kind of see it as that. And the single player is, I think they leaned into that with ODST, which I didn't play very much of, but they certainly leaned into it with all the other Halos when they were like, you can play co-op together as a team on the same thing in the single player. With Blood Gulch, you have, so the way I feel like you need to play Blood Gulch is you want to play red versus blue. You want to play at least 3 players aside, if not more. And I did a LAN party recently at work, and there was, I want to say, 10 of us, maybe 12 of us. So we managed to get 5-6 players aside, which was incredible. And so you want 5 or 6 players aside if you can. Vehicles on, but tanks off. I think tanks were a little bit too much, or a bit too explosive. You want carnage, but you don't want Half-Life levels of gravity gun carnage. What you want is like just the right amount, just the right Halo amount, I would say. And so what you have with the vehicles being on is you get to drive around the Warthogs, which are the ones where there's one driver and then a gunner on the back, and a passenger seat where you can drive somebody around, so you can have little teams of 3. It also has the little beep beep beep, the little quad bikes that are in the game as well, and I think there's a couple of other bits in Blood Gulch that automatically get populated with vehicles. But there's also spaces where you can go and grab a sniper rifle. There's spaces where you can go and grab, make sure you've got plenty of machine gun ammo. And there's also 2 towers, 2 little bases at either side. So you want to play Blood Gulch, red versus blue, vehicles on, tanks off, and you want to be playing capture the flag, because the idea is you go and grab the flag. Well, it's like any other capture the flag. You go and grab the flag from the enemy base and you try and get it back to yours. There is a big jump in the middle, a ramp, where basically this hill lets both sides catch air, like really, really quickly. And
is that possibly what the Gulch of Blood Gulch is?
Yeah, a little bit. You're actually inside the Gulch. It's a little bit of a yeah, but there is essentially a bit where you start flying over stuff. And there was this moment where I was playing. Obviously, I was driving. So people let me drive. People at work don't really know how I play, but you know how whenever we play stuff, I tend to be, I think, fairly the agent of chaos in the.
I would say that is a fair description. I would say the situation is we sit there for 5 minutes planning our plan. You count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pete has run in the opposite direction to what we'd planned. We're left there standing saying, okay, we now have to follow him as he runs off, firing his gun into the air.
Yeah, enemies or no, just firing wildly.
We've always called you Peter Leroy Jenkins Willington.
Yeah, exactly. So I was driving along, and there was just this amazing moment where, like, 5 versus 5 flew over these things, and we were like all catching air, all firing loads of guns at one another. Really, really chaotic, really good fun. And I'd forgotten how timeless that Halo gameplay is, because they've just released the Master Chief Collection, and you can buy it piecemeal or you can buy the whole thing, and eventually they're going to do, so they're releasing them all canonically, so Reach is technically the first in the canon of the Halo storyline. And so they've released Reach first, and it is, so the main thing is like 30 quid if you want to get all of them, or you can buy them for like, I think it's like 7 quid a time, 8 quid a time. And I just plumped for like just Reach, and I honestly would have spent 30 quid on it. I'd forgotten how good it is and how well it holds up, especially that HDified version that they did, where they sort of up-res the textures a little bit.
But I'm getting feeling, is your experience coloured by the fact that you were playing with 10 other players in the same room, though?
So it was definitely improved, yeah. As in, like, I always think it's better to have lots of people in a room playing multiplayer games than playing them online, just because that's kind of like how I like rolling and shouting at each other and like going and get, it's a LAN party. You have pizza and you have the odd fizzy pop and stuff like that. But I was sat next to my co-member in crime, Jem, who was absolutely blasting stuff while I was flying a helicopter around a tower. She was in the helicopter like, what are you doing? I was like,
she turns and sees your maniacal face. You don't know what you've done.
So her partner, who I used to work with actually when I was at Pocket Gamer, He at one point after a match, he said, I don't think I've ever seen anybody like punch the air as much as you do, Peter. Like the amount, as I say, like it's all about that chaos, and you can cause tons of it, and so definitely at doing that, but playing it remotely, I think would be really, really good fun. And it's bonkers how well it all works.
I think for me, I started playing Halo, like, it was the first, when I bought the Xbox way back in the day, the original Xbox. That was like,
yeah.
I bought Halo with the Xbox, not really knowing what Halo was, but it was obviously the big game, and I bought that. Not really into first-person shooters, but I loved that. I fell in love with Halo, and then Halo 2 and Halo 3 and all that stuff. And as you say, the thing that really sticks with it is just how well it kind of plays. The mechanics just hardwired into that game just work. Yeah. And it's no surprise that it had such an impact when it came out, because, as you say, they just nailed it. The kind of just the way it holds.
They nailed it first time. Yeah. That's the mad thing. Like, that first game is still. I went back to the original, as I say, the original Xbox version. I went back maybe a couple of years ago, and it did hold up really, really well. But playing Reach again, it feels like it's come out for the first time like last week. Like it's bonkers how good it is, and how like forward thinking it was. Like, there's tons of maps, tons of tons of really fun modes. Like, I get really sick of like just standard deathmatch stuff. Like, I'm never good enough to be the person who's like, I'm always like at best middle rank, usually bottom rank when I'm playing deathmatch stuff. But there's so many different kinds of modes that give you lots of different things you can do. Like, as I say, like Capture the Flag is really, really good. We played, it was called Crazy King of the Hill. I don't know if you ever played that in Reach.
It rings a bell. It does ring a bell.
So King of the Hill is usually where you need to go to a space and then hold it, right? Like, you need to basically stand in this glowing circle. Crazy King of the Hill basically gives you the glowing circle, and then every 20 seconds the King of the Hill space moves. And so you end up with this really fun situation where you defend the hill, and then suddenly it's half a mile in the other direction. Suddenly everybody stops shooting at one another, everybody jumps in a vehicle and blasts it all the way to the other side of the map, shooting at each other on the way, because obviously the first thing you want to do is get hold of that that vehicle. And the fact that there's different classes, you can sprint now, you can do jetpacks. There's like this energy shield thing, which a couple of the people I was playing with were like properly good at Halo, like properly good, and actually knew what they were doing with all of this stuff. But it was just fun. As somebody who isn't really good at first-person shooters, I was really blown away with how much destruction and chaos I could cause with just being vaguely competent. And it just, it's oh man,
I have
so
to say,
good.
Halo is the only game I've ever played, as like you said there, in terms of with a big
Right.
group of people and stuff like that. I did that at university, like on our halls,
Yeah.
where literally we'd pulled 2 TVs into someone's room, hooked up 2 Xboxes or Xbox 360s to the 2 TVs. So there's like 8 of us sat in a room, all playing in this one match. Again, I'm the same. I'm useless at it, but I still have fun and all that.
So
jazz.
much
Other
fun.
people are much better. I think that would have probably been I think it was Halo 2 that introduced the multiplayer, and then probably Halo 3 which really kicked it off.
So Halo 1, I have this really fond memory of, one of the fondest memories of being in my hometown, was there was an internet cafe, gaming cafe thing, and it didn't last very long, but that you could play the original Halo on an original Xbox using a thing called Kayla Client. I remember that because I remember somebody saying it and me being like, oh, that's a fun name. And I remember me and 3 pals from back home, we played Halo 1 against some Canadians who were out in Canada. And if you went through this, because you could play it local, you could play it on a LAN network, and this Kayla Client thing basically spoofed it into thinking it was a LAN. And I remember doing it, and we had these headsets, and these guys were like, oh yeah, you can talk with these guys over in Canada. And it was the first ever like online multiplayer game I'd ever done. Like, I wasn't into PCs or anything like that at the time. And I remember turning to my friends and saying, this is the future. Like, this is what multiplayer is going to be from now on. And it was like, and when, as you say, when Halo 2 came along and Xbox Live really kicked off, then it was just like, well,
That changed literally everything.
literally everything. Yeah. And as I say, to bring it back to this Master Chief collection that's just come out.
Yeah, so the Master Chief Collection, genuinely, I'm a huge Halo fan. I've not actually heard of this.
Really?
Yeah, I've actually not. I know they've released different editions and stuff in the past. What is the Master Chief Collection? Is it? I'm assuming it's kind of an Xbox/PC exclusive stuff.
Right. So it came out on Xbox a little while ago, is my understanding. I don't have an Xbox One, unfortunately. But it's only just been released on PC, and it's not just through the Windows Store, which is what everyone thought it was going to be. It's also on Steam. And what it is the Master Chief Collection from the Xbox One, so you get these up-res textures and stuff like that. It's by 343 Industries, which is the people that were given the Halo the thing afterwards. And
when Bungie left.
yeah, so they were the ones who did Halo 4 and Halo 5, I think is out now. And they've gone back to this, and they've been really, really faithful with it, really, really just understood what that game needs. And what they're doing is they're staggering the release, whereby when they launch it canonically, so they launch with Halo Reach, and basically when you fire up the Master Chief Collection, it says, well, which version do you want to play? And you're like, okay, well, I want to play Reach. And it goes, okay, fine. Do you want to play single player, or do you want to play multiplayer? Halo Reach. And then, so each of these versions, my understanding is, you will be able to play the multiplayer of Halo 2. You'll be able to play the multiplayer of Halo 4. And now, I seem to remember reading this. I don't know whether or not this is true, but I'm fairly confident that they've also talked at one point about bringing all of those maps back into this like universal multiplayer mode. I don't know how. That maybe that was a fever dream, but anyway, they're releasing these canonically. They're going to do all of them except for Halo 4 and Halo 5. I assume that's not out yet. I don't know. So yeah, so eventually it will be Reach 1, 2, 3, and ODST, and that is basically they're the ones. Like that's the that's the stuff. That's the ticket. There is cross-platform multiplayer, I believe. There certainly is between the Windows versions. So if you play on Steam, then you can play against people with the Windows version, because it uses Xbox Live. So you do have to have an Xbox Live account, but you don't have to have a premium Xbox Live account. So as long as you're playing on PC, you can just play online for free. That's not a problem whatsoever. I don't know whether or not it talks to the Xbox One. Maybe it does. I'm not sure. But the LAN party that we did was the easiest multiplayer I think I've ever set up. It was literally like you switch to LAN mode, and immediately it found every single person, was like, yep, cool, in you come. And like we were up and playing within 3 minutes. Like, astonishing. absolutely astonishing. And the fact that it's being, you can either buy the whole thing up front at a discount and then you'll get them over time, or if you want, just go grab the one that you want. And for me, we were like, well, we're going to play Reach, we're going to have a great time. I honestly think it's probably the best 7 or 8 quid I've spent in, certainly the last 6 months. Like, really, really good fun, and I really hope I get to play more of it as well. Either, hopefully with you guys, but if I have to, then randomers online.
Yeah, you've got me jazzed for playing Halo again, which is disappointing because I have nothing to play it on.
Yeah,
because I have a PlayStation and I have a Mac, so neither of those are available for Halo.
Does your Mac run Windows?
It can. I'd have to buy extra software.
Right.
No, technically it can. You can buy software which will partition the thing, but it's not the best. It's not ideal. I've had it in the past, and I've kind of taken it off because I wasn't using it necessarily. But yeah, but I want to play Halo again now. So thanks for the disappointment, I guess.
That's all right, mate.
Oh, well done, Pete. Striding into 2020 with the same verve and vigour that you left the 2010s.
Yep, ruining it. Well, okay, so how... obviously, we got to the end of 2019, finishing stuff up.
Well done. Hopefully we did. Peek behind to see how the sausage is made, but
no,
this
Sam,
is not...
No, Sam, no!
Like, we are recording this in the year of our Lord 2019, so let's hopefully we're all still around come 2020.
At the end of the day, hang on a minute. If we're not here 2020, something tells me this podcast doesn't go up.
Well, no, because the member of our party who isn't on this call is the person responsible to uploading it. So I'd like to think through tears and a general, Chris would have gone on hunger strike, tears. Like, he'll get this podcast up as his final sort of remembrance of us, and the great catastrophe, I can only assume it's called, where 3 different people in 3 very different locations in the UK for some reason can't record podcasts
all had
anymore.
Pianos fall on them.
So make sure to listen to all the way to the end of the podcast to find out whether or not Chris and the rest of us are still alive. But I mean, so this idea of finishing things, like, I'm certainly trying to.
Oh no, we've broken Sam.
Oh no,
we single-handedly created the best way to keep people listening. We might die.
It's like,
because to be fair, without getting morbid, right now we can't guarantee we're going to make it to the end of this episode.
It's true. Have you ever watched American news networks?
Yes.
And and they're always like, is salad making you poop too much? Find out after the break. Like, it feels like we found the ultimate version of that. But so like I say, finishing that stuff up. I've been trying to finish, because I do at some point, hopefully in 2020, want to talk about Final Fantasy 12, but I would like to have actually finished it before I actually, because I get very excited about JRPGs, and then I get really bored towards the end. I want to finish that. I want to finish... I've finished How I Met Your Mother this year. Brilliant.
Bloody hell, it's not really the cream of the crop, is it? I
think of all the things you could say, I did this, you finished I'll admit, a humorous, enjoyable sitcom, but
brilliant.
A fairly middle-of-the-road sitcom. It's not up there in the kind of the pantheon of great series.
Last year, Seinfeld and Frasier. This year, it was How I Met Your Mother and... Oh, which one? What was the other one that I did this year?
Memorable.
It was clearly memorable.
Was it American?
Also this year I also finished.
Please don't say 2.5 Men.
No, that's on the docket. That one where Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah. Okay. So that was I enjoyed that. So, so I'm trying to get through all of these sorts of things, and hopefully I'll have done them by.
Maybe can we recommend new comedy American comedy sitcoms for you?
No, I'm not up for them. I've already got them. I'm already started Tuca and Bertie. That's great. A little animated one. I'm gonna start. I want to see whether or not I can get hold of Regular Show, because I remember watching the first season of that and really liking it. And then the other one I really want to get is Cheers.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I started watching Cheers a few years back.
I mean, I'm surprised you watched Frasier without watching Cheers beforehand. Because you really you don't understand Frasier until you've watched Cheers.
How could I possibly know? Yeah, I mean, there's I'm gonna watch it almost like one might have watched the new Star Wars movies.
Right. Yeah, fair.
Like Phantom Menace and stuff like that. Like, oh, that's how he turned into. Yeah, I'm gonna kind of enjoy it like that. What about you, Sam? What have you finished?
What have I finished?
What are you happy you finished?
What?
In 2019?
In 2019?
Yeah, what's the thing that you've been like, I've been meaning to get that played?
Hang on. Nothing much. I mean, I finally watched Event Horizon the other day.
Is that because you saw that there were 2 bonkers Switch games that have come out for the Event Horizon IP recently?
No.
Did you not see this?
What?
They look like
Hang on.
like obviously as a professional developer, not ever wanting to besmirch anybody's good name, but they look super. Like they look really low rent, and they have the Event Horizon IP attached to it. I think there's 2 of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they look like not what you would expect.
Well, there's currently a Switch sale going on at the minute, and the Event Horizon game has been discounted 75%. So now it's £1.34.
Well, there you go. Find out what happened to the crew of the Who Gives a Toss after that. So you finished Event Horizon?
Yes. I mean, it wasn't like I started it on January 1st, 2019, and I've been watching 20 seconds every day until finally.
Right, sure.
I was in one of those moods, and I thought I've always wanted to watch Event Horizon, but just never got round to doing it. Like, I'm very much aware of its place within our sort of culture,
right? And
I tell you what, it's one of those films where you watch it, and immediately afterwards, I searched. Is Event Horizon a good film?
Oh!
Like, I was so like, I enjoyed this, but should I?
Yeah. Why?
Like,
please convince me I'm right.
From the moment it starts, it's got this Ronnie Size Matrix-esque soundtrack, which tonally goes against everything in the film. And, like, the practical effects, the stunts, the story, like, it's all really, really good. Like, it's really, really good. Like, but I was just like, is this film good? Have you not seen it? Either of you?
I've not seen it.
I've not seen it, no.
It's so I'm actually learning. So 2020 started you mean to go on. I'm actually listening to a lecture series about quantum and black holes.
Oh, right, okay,
yeah. And so I just learned about what the Event Horizon was.
Yes.
So I know what an Event Horizon is. But I've heard that this one's quite a spooky movie.
Well, yeah, it's described as a thriller, but it's on the horror-y end of being a thriller.
Does it star Vin Diesel?
No, that's pitch black. Event Horizon has Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, Draco Malfoy's dad from the Harry Potter series.
Hello to Jason Isaacs.
And yeah, like Sam Neill, incredible performance. Lawrence Fishburne knocks it out of the park, like superb stuff. And all the other actors, other than Jason Isaacs, long forgotten. They're like, nothing ever happened to them. But basically, it's the story of a ship that tries to kill the people that are on it. And it's weird when you watch it, and like I immediately just thought of Dead Space and that feeling of being on the Ishimura.
Right.
And not knowing what was in the ship or on the ship. And it just captures that exceptional atmosphere of, especially when they're first like exploring the ship, they don't realise what the ship is actually doing to them. So it has this wonderful atmosphere, and it's incredibly tense and thrilling. And Sam Neill is just I tell you what, this will be perfectly sum up Event Horizon and the year and in the time that it was made, right? Sam Neill he spends quite a lot of the early part of the film with his shirt off, right? And you can tell that he's not in any kind of physical fitness at all, because you can tell he's holding it in the whole way. Like, you can just see him like holding it in, but still the fat's sort of spilling over his trousers, and he's just like,
Oh,
it's just like, oh my God, it's just like, you know, when it's just so funny. I love it. I honestly, I think I don't know what to make of the film, but I'm glad I watched it, and I'm glad I've like, it's the last film I've watched this year. Oh, God.
good Lord.
Well, I'm trying to think if there's anything I've finished, and there's nothing. I mean, already we've discussed playing a game from 2010, a film from 1997.
Brilliant.
I've just finished Spider-Man, but that's new. So
done.
That's it. We've talked about Spider-Man in the past, so kind of when you played it. It's taken me 4 months to complete it, which isn't actually that bad considering the amount of time I actually get to play games. But yes, that's the kind of the big thing I've finished. I just kind of I go to the point now where I just take one game at a time, and
That's all you can do, man. Take it one game at a time.
yeah. So just finished Spider-Man. It was good. It was good. It was weird. I went up and down in terms of how much I was enjoying it, and it kind of, part of that was influenced by the narrative, where there was, without giving it away, there were certain narrative beats and twists, so to speak, that I saw coming so clearly that I was getting annoyed that it was taking so long for the twist to be revealed.
Right.
And so you sit there thinking, why am I doing these meaningless tasks when I know where this is heading, and you're just dragging it out now? You're making me do all this stuff because I know what you're trying to get me to do, but I'm having to do all of this stuff first. And that was kind of annoying me a bit. Same with kind of like I was losing kind of interest of the kind of the side quests, which at the start I'd really enjoyed, but as I had less time to play, I was kind of like, I wanted to get through the narrative, which then when the narrative is dragging, because the narrative is trying to push you to do the side quests, so it's dragging a little bit to get you to do other stuff. It was difficult, and I don't think that a game, an open world game such as Spider-Man, lends itself necessarily to good narrative storytelling in certain ways. I think in certain ways it can, but I think overall I find I struggle with the narrative on those kind of games.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think specifically with open world games that it doesn't work? Because the reason I would bring this up is that, so for example, most good tabletop RPGs, for example, are open world. What is the fundamental structure in video games versus tabletop games, I would say, that means that open world isn't great for telling stories? Is it simply the medium is different, and therefore
I think with a tabletop RPG, the kind of the game is in control of the players, really.
Sure.
So whereas a video game, the developers, this is in my mind, not a developer myself, but the developers have in mind a length of time they would like you to play the game. Now, the narrative won't take that long of the length of time they want you to be playing, so they're stretching it out by giving you side quests and doing all that stuff. Now, for me, I'm someone who plays games for the narrative. I enjoy the storytelling. That's why all of my favourite games all have a really strong narrative. There's lots of action, lots of all traditional gaming tropes, but they all have a great storyline and a kind of a narrative behind them. When you start having side quests and other things as a key component of the game, it pulls away from the narrative for me, because like there are plenty of times where Spider-Man, he literally, after a cutscene, like narrative has happened, that's done, the cutscene is finished, and he's left the lab and he's sat outside and he says, well, I've got nothing to do for now, I best look around the city and look for crime. And I'm
I love that. I really like that.
I get that, but for someone who wants the narrative to push forward, I want to be constantly rolling. I want to be like, okay, now I need to go and investigate it. I need to go over here and go over here and go over here. That's what I want to happen.
Okay.
Don't you see that extra bit as part of the narrative though? Because that's the way, especially when I played Spider-Man, like, and with most open world games, if they do it right, I always see that as part of the narrative. Like, I'm getting to know Peter Parker and I'm getting to know New York City, which is essentially a character in Spider-Man. And because the developers are kind of going, right, in terms of the main story arc, we're going to give you some space to just go and explore the city, because when this next beat comes in, because you've gotten to know the city and you've gotten to know Peter Parker a little better, we think this narrative is going to hit a bit harder. harder. For me, that was more impactful than when, say, oh no, you've got to save the world, Mr. Man, but first I'm going to carry 3 things to this person over here, and then I'll go and save the world. Like for me and Spider-Man, that just worked.
And I
a
do
dream.
get that, and I think I think that perhaps didn't work as quite as well as the developers wanted. I totally get that you could have that element of you're going around, you're fighting crime, you're doing Spider-Man-y things, and then the narrative kicks back in. That's lovely if that works. What it kind of felt to me was, okay, you've done enough time away from the narrative.
Right.
Let's give you more narrative, as opposed to an organic, natural thing of you've done this, which as a result of you doing this thing by yourself has caused this thing to happen, which then leads back into the narrative. It was just, I've just spent 5 minutes fighting crime. I've now got a call telling me I have to go over there. Okay, now I go over there.
But I thought, but isn't that organic? Isn't that the way that Spider-Man's life would go? That he would like, right, I've done this thing, I've been Peter Parker, going to fight crime. Oh no, I've got a call, I'm off to the next thing.
But I mean, it comes back to what I'm looking for in the game more than anything else. And as I say, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a badly constructed game, not at all. I think for what it's trying to do, it does do it very well. For what I was looking for, it possibly doesn't do exactly what I want it to do. And as I say, that's because I'm looking for that focus on the narrative. At the start, I was really enjoying the side quests. I thought they were really fun, doing different things, and great. As I was spending longer and longer playing it, I became thinking, okay, I want to move this game along. I want to get some progress. I want to get through the narrative. And so it kind of linked into the fact of when I can feel like the story's being dragged out longer than it needs to, when I can see, okay, I'm not going to get the answer to this question that I know the answer to yet. When that starts happening, then I'm just like, I want to just kind of play through the narrative, and then I want to get through it. And when I don't have a lot of time to play games, I want to feel like I've achieved something. And so the progression of the narrative means I feel like I've achieved something. If I went on there, as my time playing games is quite finite, if I just went on there and, I don't know, found 3 backpacks, I'm probably not going to find all the backpacks when I finish the game, and it's not a game I'm going to go back to and just play to find the backpack. So I don't feel like
I did.
Oh yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But you're coming at this game from a different position than I am, and as I say, I think just for what I was looking for, and by no means it's not a bad game. I really enjoyed playing the game. There were certain elements that are potentially an issue with the genre of the open world game, which doesn't lend itself perhaps to a narrative. My favourite games are the Uncharted games, Last of Us. Those are very strict narrative, kind of linear stories, and that's what I love. When I play, I feel like I've gone from A to B, and I've made progression, and it's been productive, and I can stop then, and I can pick it up later on, and I can go from B to C, and that's...
But would you... Here's the thing, though. Would you say that the original Red Dead Redemption was a good narrative game?
Yeah, but hang on. Sorry, it had a good narrative. Eventually, yes. And I say that because I started playing it, and for me this is a common thing with Rockstar. I started playing it, I got distracted by the host of things that are thrown at that you can possibly do. I got distracted, I lost my way, I wasn't involved in the narrative, and I kind of stopped playing. I came back to it at a later date, and I focused in on the narrative, and I kind of pushed that stuff to the side. And when I pushed that stuff to the side, that narrative became the kind of the forefront. And there's less in the narrative of Red Dead Redemption of the narrative has stopped here, you have to go do your own thing, and then we'll come back to you later. Right.
And I suppose that to me feels like what that fundamental difference is. Like there's a bit in Assassin's Creed Black Flag where basically the game just says, just go and be a pirate for a bit. And you just have to go and do some stuff. And it doesn't really give you all that much detail as to what you should be doing. And whenever I had to go and do that for like 2 or 3 hours. And I'm in the same boat as you, Dan, in that I felt, even though it felt thematically right, like, cool, I went off and had this adventure and I terrorized the high seas. Because I've grown up with a language of what video games are doing, I immediately, as soon as that stuff started to happen, I was like, I know what you're doing. You're extending the game. You're pushing this out. You're giving me side quests. This has nothing to do with the narrative. This is just extending the gameplay out. In exactly the same way that whenever I see a open world game, and like Watch Dogs, particularly the first one did this, where it would be like, oh no, oh, I've had my bag stolen. And you knew it wasn't even a case of like get 10, like do this and this will never happen again. It was just a random thing that would happen in the world and you could go off and do it. Whenever that happened, immediately my brain just says, don't worry about that. Don't bother engaging with that content because that is not driving that story forward. I always felt with that stuff like that was just kind of filler. And it feels like the difference between what Rockstar Games does and it sounds like what the Spider-Man game has been doing is that Rockstar Games, there is always a little circle with a little letter inside of it that if you go and do that, that will move the story forward. Like you will go and see the guy at the chop shop and he will do the thing that allows you to unlock CJ's next set of tasks that he needs to do. Whereas with the you've stopped a random burglary, it's just this kind of world building stuff that is not there's no substance to it. It doesn't actually feel like you're really doing anything because because essentially a random dice roll can happen in the background and the game system can say, you know what, do the burglary again.
Yeah, but I really disagree on quite a lot of this stuff. Like, and I think it's like my favourite moments in Horizon Zero Dawn were just like wandering around the world in between like the story beats. I think that is another game that does that really well, where the narrative is structured in a way that you just early on in the game, it's just like you need to deliver this message to this place and that's it. And what happens in between on the way is totally up to you. And I often feel that in these cases, it's all about what are you bringing to it as a player? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, sometimes I think that we can expect too much from games. Like, at the moment, I'm playing Dragon's Dogma on the Switch and having a whale of a time because I'm fully role-playing the character that I'm creating. Like, Dragon's Dogma would be hell for you, Dan, because the story is a dragon comes down on a beach, rips out your heart, you wake up, and then the dragon comes up to you next day and goes, don't worry about it. We'll fight one day. I'll let you go and get the experience you need to come and fight me, and we'll have a proper fight. All right?
I mean,
see you later.
That is legitimately a nightmare I have.
So, and that's all the game is. And then you're just off. You just go and explore the world, and all you're doing is getting experience to then one day come back and fight the dragon. But in my mind,
yeah, I think I need a bit more hand holding than that. I think I need just a little bit more.
I'm the same, Dan. Yeah.
Kind of to keep me engaged. I need to see that progression.
Dan, I agree with you. But in my mind, I'm Farnsby, the 80-year-old ex-wizard who denounced himself from this horrible life to bring up his daughter. But now he's been thrust back into this world against his will. He's been forced to pick up his staff. He's got a small dwarf that follows him called Relish, and now he's just like on this quest that he doesn't want to go on. And it's the same in like Fallout. Like when I last played Fallout 4, I role played like the main character. Like I gave him a full backstory as if it was like a proper RPG to actually give myself some meaning in the world whilst I was just jumping from side quest to side quest. Yeah. And for me, it's that investment into it. I think it comes from I think sometimes the best games allow you to sort of have fun with that and really explore it, and I think that it's a skill that you can develop, and I think that when I come to play games like that, that's always what I'm doing, and I think it allows me to sometimes enjoy them a little more because I'm just like, one of my favourite things is like when I come back to a game that I've not played in a while, I just role play that the person I'm playing has got amnesia and can't remember how to do anything. And
brilliant.
It's just like I'm bringing my own story to the thing, so immediately it's just 10 times more interesting.
I think it's interesting. You mentioned two games there, Fallout and Horizon Zero Dawn. Fallout is another game I've tried many times to play, and I just get stuck because I don't see the progression that I need to be making, and I really struggle with it. Interesting with Horizon Zero Dawn, because I'd agree it's a open world game, but I don't feel the same way about that, and I'm trying to think why that would be. And I think part of it is the fact that you have this narrative that feeds through the game, and that narrative is always pretty much there. You can follow it in the same way we talked about with Rockstar games. You can follow that narrative, but also some of the stuff that you take a step away. Some of the I can't even remember what they're called now. The kind of the caves under the mountains that you find throughout kind of the world. You don't necessarily have to find all of those. Obviously, you get certain benefits by doing that. But I did find that I felt the narrative was enhanced from doing those side quests.
Now you know exactly why that is. It's because Guerrilla Games is something very, very clever in the general design of Horizon Zero Dawn. Is that they know that if you're able to bring something of yourself into the game, you'll connect with it a little bit better. So just like I do with Farnsby and Relish, the trick that Horizon Zero Dawn does is to get you to do that without realizing it.
Yeah.
And how it does that is by the fact it's built a world that you recognize stuff in as a player, but Aloy doesn't. So you know what all these buildings are. You know what is going on, like in all these artifacts that you are finding. You recognize the stuff in the old world that existed. So as a player, you're invested in that part of the story. So you want to go and do that. You've put now some of your own narrative and your investment into that story. So I think that's why that works, because then you've got two narratives running alongside. You've got Aloy just doing her story, but then you've also got you as a player. You know that there is some bigger secret going on here, which Aloy doesn't essentially do. So that means that when you're not doing parts of the narrative, you as a player are getting the satisfaction of discovery of this other secret that's running alongside the game.
And I'd agree with that. And I think when you can look at that and you compare it with something like Spider-Man to kind of bring it kind of back full circle, I don't think that if I'm going around the city fighting crime, the third or fourth time I chase down a stolen car, or the third or fourth time I stop a fight that's happening in the middle of a street, I'm then not getting anything from that. It's just repetition then. And that's kind of where I have that problem. That first time it's like, oh yeah, that's happening. Spider-Man would go, Peter Parker would go and save those people. He'd go and fight that crime. So I would go and do it. After a while, Pete, as you were saying, it's not going to add anything to it. At that point, I'm a gamer as opposed to playing the character.
I would say the other thing with the other slight wrinkles on this are and RPGs have this. I've been doing a lot of research into RPGs. Some video games railroad you a lot more, and then even in open world games. And I think so. Grand Theft Auto is a bit more railroady, I would say, because it's like, well, we kind of just want you to go along the path, right? So a really good example would be that first the first of the 3D ones, Grand Theft Auto 3, basically locks off most of the islands beforehand, and because it doesn't really want you to go elsewhere, and it wants you to progress through a story so that you can unlock everything else and see everything else. So whenever you have a game that largely railroads you, it's very difficult then to actually then start role playing. I find that, at least. And then I think the other thing is that it's also about how good that generative content actually is. So, for example, Watch Dogs, it's really bad because it's usually the same line of dialogue. They're like, "Oh no, strange hatted hacker man! What? Please help! I've been robbed." And it's
that old chestnut.
They do. That old chestnut. And you'll hear that line of dialogue multiple times, and that's the thing that immediately takes you out. And it's not a living, breathing city whereby I'm role-playing Strange Hatted Hacker Man. It's just another bit of generative content. Again, having this video game history, experience in history, you can immediately peer behind the curtain and go, oh right, yeah, this is just a system to keep me busy. Whereas with some of the Red Dead 2 stuff that I've been seeing Alex playing, it's really good. It's just stuff where it's all of these different factors are coming into play, and you think, is this a mission? Is this a side thing? Is this just a thing that happens out in the world? Is this just different weird systems connecting with one another? So I think the more complex it is, the more likely it is that you are to engage with it and role play with it, I think, as Sam does.
And I think that the games are moving in the right direction. Spider-Man is a move in the right direction. For me, it doesn't feel enough for what I'm looking for. But no game immediately gets it first time, other than Halo, as we've already discussed. No one gets it first time. You have to take those steps to get there, and then game after game will build on it and build on it and build on it till you get till someone nails down, oh, this is how it's done. And then people know how it's done, and then people can then kind of experiment in that new playground. And we're getting closer, and kind of the people like the guys behind Spider-Man, the attempt is there. I absolutely see that, to try and give you an open world which then inflects on the narrative in a natural way. For me, it didn't quite mesh well enough.
Chris and I, he's not on his call. He's been quarantined to not catch the timed illness that the three of us have got. So at least one of us can make it through to 2020.
Yeah.
But Chris and I did have another gaming afternoon
Did you?
together recently, which is a
very
lot of
like
fun.
you.
It is very unlike us. But I have to say, one of my favourite games of 2019 has been the Arkham Horror LCG.
Really?
Yes. At times, I've not liked it. At times, I've thought, Chris, let's not do this ever again. But a couple of the expansions we played, we have not been able to stop talking about, like, since finishing them, how exciting and thrilling and adventurous they were. I really recommend it, especially as a two-player game. It's just enough amount of ridiculousness and silliness in that world, and yeah, again, as some sort of theme of this show, like we do find ourselves like role playing within it, which I guess you're encouraged to do, because I'm playing a jazz musician and he's playing a journalist, I think, or like a 1950s floozy who's got 10 knives. So we do kind of house rules a few things, which increases some of the enjoyment.
Okay.
But because the game is silly enough, it kind of feels right that you can do that kind of thing.
Right.
But anyway, off topic, because what I really wanted to bring to the table was that Chris and I played Decrypto at the weekend.
Okay. What is a Decrypto?
So Decrypto is a code-breaking game in the same way... You guys have both played Codenames?
Yes.
Yes. So Codenames came out and sort of swept the world, and everyone loved it, and it was brilliant and sold millions of copies and whatever. And then Decrypto came out, and I think maybe like a few people, I thought, well, I've already got Codenames, why would I need Decrypto? And it's sort of hovered around in the background, and I've not really paid any interest in it, but we finally got a chance to play it, and... You need 4 people to play it, so my wife was there and her best friend, and we played Decrypto. And I think why I thought about Arkham Horror, the card game, is a bit like that, is it's such a wonderfully theatrical game to play. Like, there's some expansions in Arkham Horror, the card game, where you might be on a train and you have to set up all the cards like they are carriages on a train. Or there's one where you're in Venice and you have to set up the cards in a circle as if they're like the paths between the canals and things. And Decrypto is very similar in that the whole game is built around this central theatrical experience of the fact that you are 2 teams of code breakers, which is something I don't think Codenames really has. Like, whenever I've introduced Codenames to anyone, I always find it a real struggle to explain how it works, because the theme and the mechanics don't really match up enough.
Right.
Because you just like, when you start saying like, oh, you're code breakers and you're trying to give secret words to people and hope that you're not saying them to other people. Like, I think it works better when you try to describe it in abstract terms, whereas Decrypto is just, it's all theme and it's all drama inside of it. So when you first set up, you both get these screens. So each team has a screen that faces them, and in these screens they have 4 little windows that have the same material that you use to get in 3D glasses, you know, like the red like plastic in these screens. And then everyone starts off with these 4 little code cards that are completely scrambled, like you can't work out what's on them at all. And you each get a piece of paper, which is double-sided, and then a pen, which isn't in the box, but, you know, whatever. And then the game begins. And the game begins with each team picking up these little, like, scrambled messages and slotting them in to each of the 4 windows. And when they get slotted into the windows, it reveals a code word. Like, the red filter filters out all the misinformation and you get, like, code words.
Okay.
And the words are, you know, standard nouns and whatever, and like pretty like the words you kind of find in code names. And then the aim of the game is to try and intercept the other team's codes, because what happens is under each of the screens where the code words are will be a number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And when it's your go, you pick up a card and it will say like 3, 2, 1 or 4, 1, 2. And using that information, you have to try and get your team to guess that sequence of numbers by hinting at or finding words that link to the words that are in your screen, if that makes sense. So, for example, if the 4 words were baker, football, school, and paint. Mm-hmm. So baker's 1, football's 2, school's 3, and paint is 4. And I pulled out a code that was 2, 1, 3. My mission then is to try and get you guys who are on my team to say the code 213. So I might say goal, bread, teacher.
Right, okay.
So the complexity is that the other team on their piece of paper is writing down everything that you say. So they hear you saying goal, bread, teacher, and then they'll hear your guess as to what you think the code is. So you give those clues and you say the numbers 213. So now the other team know that word number 2 has something to do with goals. Word number 1 has something to do with bread. Word number 3 has something to do with teacher. So when it's your go again, and say you have 1, 2, 3, if you say dough, ball, and pencil, when the other team have a chance to try and guess that code, they already know that, hang on, dough and bread, that's a similar theme. Goal and ball and pen and teacher, we think the code is 1, 2, 3. So the challenge, therefore, of the game is to try and give your team code words, but they're code words that are not going to make it specifically obvious which word you're referring to and which number that word will then refer to.
Mm-hmm. So what you're doing is you're trying to give words that are clear enough for your teammates to know so they can work out the code, but ambiguous enough so the other team can't figure out the code.
Yes, exactly. So think of it like Spyfall. You know, we've all played Spyfall. Think of it like that. When some of you know the location, one of you doesn't, you want to make sure other people are on your same wavelength, but not giving too much information to the spy so they can crack where the location is and win the game. And this is why I think I really, really enjoy it as a game, because you really rely on listening to the other team's conversations, and it really relies on you trying to crack the code. And because you've got to sort of actively act like a code breaker, the effect that has on the other team is that they've got to effectively act as a code maker. And it creates this wonderful thematic dynamic between the two teams that I think doesn't exist in a game like Spyfall or a game like sort of like a social deduction game like Resistance or in Codenames, because you really have to, I guess, like if it's like bringing it back to like real code breaking like the Enigma machines, it's all about starting to recognize patterns and trends and using that information to try and get the code before the other team get it. And you only need to get their code twice to win the game. So the odds are really stacked like in your favor. Like rounds are really quick, it's really snappy. You can play 2 or 3 rounds, someone can do it, and then you just start again. But it all lends itself to this lovely theatrical experience that you're having, because you've got the screens in front of you. You each have a piece of paper which is double-sided, one side for your screen, one side the other, in which you're filling out all this information of like, oh yeah, bread and dough, we know we know they were clues for number 1, and goal, and we know they're clues for number 2, and all the aesthetics are made to look like sort of 1950s computer technology as well. So all these little screens are like CRT screens, and all the pieces of paper are made to look like paper document files and things. Okay. So you really feel like you're at this analog coalface of trying to like decipher this brand new digital information. And
You're the ones in like Bletchley of the future, almost.
Yes, exactly. And in terms of like gameplay and a party game, it's the closest I've really felt like coming to really having a genuine thematic experience. I think the only thing that's ever come close to me is something like Captain Sonar, which is exceptionally thematic.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of like a party game. And one of the other things we got to try out with Decrypto actually was there's an expansion called the Laserdrive expansion. And that is just bonkers because you just get this little box of cards that are all made to look like laser discs. And what they do is you pick one off and it will say something like a movie title. And then one of the clues you've got to give to your team to link to a word, which will then link to one of the numbers in the sequence, has to be a movie title.
I like that a lot. That sounds really good.
That's really interesting. I like that.
And there's a variant that you can play where if you're able to say a movie title for all 3 of your clues, you get certain bonuses which then allow you to then
that's great
actually attempt to guess the words of the other team, and then that's another way that you can then go on to win the game.
That's brilliant.
So
that's really smart.
Like the laser drive stuff is just, it's kind of one of those things like in other great party games that I think we all love, like Monica's 20-Second Showdown and things like that, which are just like well written prompts to have fun with. And like when you're playing a game like Codenames or Decrypto, sometimes it could be, I think what stumps people quite a lot is when they're sitting there and they're just like, I don't know. And when the stakes are so high like they are in Decrypto, when you've really got to think of how can I tell Dan that this is number 1, which is Baker, but you can't say bread, you can't say dough, you can't say, water or flour, or like you've got to say something to make them think of bread, and then like that can sometimes slow the game down, whereas like what the laser drive does is just give you those prompts, I think, those like creative sort of prompts, so you know at least you've got to go down some sort of avenue with it. But yeah, Chris and I really loved it, and I think around this time of year where people are having parties, or maybe they've had parties and are just looking for something to really sink their teeth into, and that's not that really energetic, but it's really, really thematic and exceptionally thinky and deductive, then Decrypto and the Laser Drive expansion are actually quite reasonably priced, both of them. Like you can get the Laser Drive expansion for around 10-12 quid and Decrypto for about 15-16 quid, and for the quality of the components, it's an exceptional recommendation from me.
And actually, we talked about the Secret Santa last time, and we talked about the BGG Secret Santa. Well,
yes.
That's actually now finished.
Well, have you got it?
I have got mine. I assume that Taco's received his. I hope so. Out in Taiwan. God bless you, Taco, if you have got it. And
what did you send again?
With. 2 expansions for the Lord of the Rings living card game by Fantasy Flight.
Which he did. He did own the original game, didn't he?
He did own the original. I double checked. Yeah, he did. He definitely did. And
because that would have sucked.
It would have sucked. Like, sucks to be you, mate. Make sure you get the main game, and then you can enjoy this fun. So I received, and I don't know who from, so my Secret Santa actually ended up doing that thing that we talked about last time, which was taunting. So he actually ended up taunting me. And it turns out that what this is you can send a message to the BGG admins, and they will, as a Secret Santa, you send them the message, and then they send through the Secret Santa system the message to you, anonymized. So you still don't know who it is, but they just keep sending you messages. And you can also send messages back to your Secret Santa. And,
oh my God.
And I know. And it was really neat. And so I had it was very nice of him to engage, him or her to engage with it. And I said, oh, thanks very much. This is fun. I really can't wait to receive it. And they got to the point where they actually sent me a message saying, it's outside your door. And I was like, how do you know?
Are you outside my door?
Are you outside my door?
Do you mean my bedroom door?
And it's because they delivered it through a retailer that I assume gives you a tracking number which says where it is. So I got my stuff, and my word, and I videoed this and sent it over to you guys because I was so excited. I received from very generous Secret Santa the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective, the Thames Murders and Other Cases. So this is, you remember there is the Istari version, which is like the 70s, 80s version, which with like 30 cases. Well, this was the reprint that they did, where they included 10 and then they split it out into a couple of different ones. And this one's meant to be the one where you don't have to go and paste in translations of the Italian into the manual.
Yeah, so
the original
the new
manual's
versions of typos have been fixed.
Beautiful. So I really can't wait to play that. We're going to play that over Christmas with Alex's family and maybe some other pals. And the other one that I got, and I'm going to bring this out onto the little camera that we use to show one another. I received quite possibly the worst and best gift I could have received, and that is the Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit 2. Now, obviously, for people listening, for our pals listening,
that packaging is something else.
That packaging is something else. So it is
I think Dan, you call that packaging serviceable.
Serviceable. So imagine a light blue to lighter blue gradient. Now imagine that's across the entire box. Now imagine they've got orange to a lighter orange gradient, and they've used that for the text that says Advanced Squad Leader Starter Kit number 2. And then for the imagery on the box, it's just a silhouette of a very large field gun, sort of artillery. And the reason that I'm very excited about this is this feels like maybe the culmination of going
all the bad things you've done in your life.
Yeah, like when I text a mate of mine that I'd received this, he said that this was proof that no good deed goes unpunished. Because basically the game is, if you've not heard of ASL, it is...
Oh, is this a game?
This is a game.
I thought it was like a miniature building thing that you would then paint.
No, Dan. This is so. Let me just show you a little bit of this, and you can see. You see these little square boxes, Dan,
also known as hexagons. Oh, sorry, those square boxes.
No. The little square boxes are on hexagons, doubling up the nerdiness. So the little square boxes there that you see, they're actually cardboard chits, and as soon as chits get involved in a game, you know that you're in for trouble. The artwork that they include on it is really bare bones, because really you're just interested in the several numbers that are on these tiny 2cm by 2cm chits, and you're also interested in the hex grid references and the terrain that is actually inside of them. This starter kit, to put it into perspective, Dan, there are 4 starter kits.
Does it make you itch underneath the skin that you were given starter kit number 2?
Yeah. So I actually was really pleased that I got number 2. So I was kind of hoping for number 1 from a I hope that this will just be the start of it collection, and I was actually mostly hoping for number 2, because number 2 is meant to be the one where they bring in artillery and they bring in new ideas that they add onto the first starter kit. So this is actually a more advanced version than the first one. So this is going full force into it. I mean, to put it into perspective, ASL, if you want to play a full proper big game of ASL, like a decent sized campaign game, you could stretch that very easily into double digits in terms of hours. This will take 2 hours brackets or more. And the reason that I'm so excited about it is because it is that level of, oh God, what am I getting myself into, that I really enjoy. It's that level of and I've never bought it for myself because I've always been a bit scared, and the fact that my Secret Santa, whoever the Secret Santa is, has bought that for me, has thrust me into doing that. I now can't not. Do you know what I mean? I now have to play that and enjoy it and see what it's like. And it's great because it forces me to push myself outside of my comfort zone into the wonderful world of replicating World War II Mediterranean theatre of operations battles.
Pete, would you say that you have gone full Willington?
This is... When Alex saw this, because we looked at all the things, she was like, "Oh, Sherlock, brilliant, that's great." When she saw this, she went, "You've gone full Willington again." And I don't like the fact that it's now crept again. I don't like the fact that it's crept into my personal life, this phrase. But when you're dealing with 8-inch by 22-inch full color geomorphic map boards,
that's some sexy talk there.
That is, I would say, jumping in 2 feet first. So yeah, I strongly, just to bring it back to the the Secret Santa stuff. It is genuinely been one of the most inspiring, as in I now need to go and do this, things that I've done, but also just the faith in humanity thing has been really nice around this period of time, where seeing what people have bought from one another, being involved, buying something for somebody, you know, some nice chap out in Taiwan, getting that stuff and being a part of like a community like on BGG, it's been really, really lovely. So I can't recommend getting involved in the Secret Santa more, any more than that. Really, I think it's really fantastic.
Oh, made it. That was Staying In with Daniel Frost, Sam Turner and Peter Full-Willington. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to leave a review too, we'd be really chuffed to bits. Keen to dig a little further? Why not head over to stayinginpodcast.com. On it you'll find our page on Board Game Geek, our Steam curation page, and all the different ways you can follow us. @StayingInPod is where you need to find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. From all of us here, Happy New Year.